Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, sponsored by ACR Poker, where this weekend is your last chance to participate in the double Venom. That's right, we have two Venom tournaments, one $5 million PKO, and also a $1.5 million PLO on ACR Poker. I'm going to be playing this Sunday. I'm not sure if either of these Venoms I'm going to be doing, but I will be doing the TPE free roll beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there or be square if you're not yet on ACR Poker. There's a link that you can click in the description of this podcast to join and use the promo code TPE, and then you can get a first-time deposit bonus of 100% up to $2,000 just by clicking that link and using the promo code TPE. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am in gorgeous, serene Raleigh, North Carolina. Happy to be bringing you yet another episode of the world's longest running poker strategy podcast, the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. I'm at Lonerider Brewery in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I just got off stage having performed in a very unusual setting. And two of the members of the studio audience were poker players and also former guests here on the podcast. And another person that was there was my opening act, who is also a poker player. And I don't even know what we should do, but why don't we introduce ladies first? We have my opening act on this little mini tour that I'm on. Hilarious, very funny. The winner of the Ladies of Laughter competition, Bath Girl herself, Marnie B, is in the house. What's up, Marnie?
That was a fun show, I would say.
Yeah, the show at the brewery was interesting. We'll get into it. We also have a returning guest, someone that was on the podcast, I guess about a year ago, Mark Lovin. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Doing well. I just saw the world's greatest comedy show, so I'm doing fantastic.
I appreciate you. And more recently, we had this next guy on the podcast. He lives here in North Carolina and was kind enough to come and support the comedy show tonight, Mr. Brent Lee.
Hey, Clayton, how's it going? It was indeed a good show.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys being here. It's nice to see you, like, in the flesh. It's so different, like, being able to do a live podcast like we're here. You know, Marnie's got two dogs with her. You know, we got airplanes flying overhead. This was a strange night. I think the audience had a good time. They seem to be very drunk. What did you think?
That would be an understatement, but that's the one thing about doing a show at a brewery. It's I guess maybe to be a little expected, but yeah, it's an interesting crowd.
Well, at this point, I've done so many different kinds of shows in so many different places. This weekend, by the way, I'm headlining at Kazi's Comedy Club. It's in Newport News, Virginia, so I can't wait to get up there. That's Friday and Saturday. There's tickets, kaziscomedyclub.com. This show tonight, it was, they weren't really heckling. They were kind of like supportive, right? I mean, what do you think, Mark?
There was one heckler, and the problem with tonight's crowd is that was about 17% of the audience. So it seems like a lot when you say it that way. But
right, yeah. Marnie, your impressions of North Carolina so far?
I love North Carolina. I think that there was a blur between audience and performer tonight. And I'm certainly not sure which side I was on either, to be frank.
Yeah, you seem like more like you were trying to control, like more like crowd control. At one point, Marnie said, if you're behind this line, you're in the audience. And if you're in front of this line, you're the comedian. So I don't think people really got the hint. But, you know, comedy's fun. But what we really all have in common is poker. And, you know, I've been playing at Cherokee down here in North Carolina, Harrah's Cherokee. Really nice place. I'm sure you guys, you know, living down here, you've probably been there a number of times. I hadn't really stayed. I went there once, maybe for 1 or 2 nights, but I've been there all week. And yeah, I really like it there. The customer service leaves a lot to be desired, but the property itself is really, really nice. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, but the lack of competition does mean their customer service game is not up to snuff.
Yeah, I feel like the word I heard the most in the 5 days that I was there was no. Yeah, I was like, can I switch to a different table? No. Is any restaurant open right now? No. Can I get a bigger room? No. Everything I say, they say no.
Did I win? No.
Well, I actually did win. One good thing that happened is they put me at table 11. It was a 2-5 game, which was the biggest game they had this week. It might be different on the weekends, but I was there, just during the weekdays. And, 11 is my lucky number. I'm not very superstitious, but I do love the number 11. I played baseball and basketball when I was a boy, and that was the number I always wore. So as soon as they put me down at table 11, the first hand I got dealt was pocket aces, 2 ones, so you knew it was off to a good start. I doubled up on the very first hand and went from there, so it was really cool. What about you, Mark? Do you have any superstitions or any good luck things like that?
I think it's unlucky to be superstitious,
I
personally.
agree with you. I noticed you're wearing your full Guilt Poker t-shirt.
I wore that for you, sir. I wore that for you because I knew you'd recognize the reference.
Yeah, for
About
sure.
2013 or so, these went on sale because people were pissed about not getting their money back and they wanted to make their money somehow. And I bought one because I was being supportive.
That's very cool. You guys are super supportive. I mean, we see you on the Twitch stream, which, by the way, I'm streaming on Twitch this Sunday, twitch.tv/Clayton Comic. We see you guys there. You've been guests on the podcast, and now you even came to my comedy show, and it really means a lot. Marnie B, you look like you're tearing up over there at all this sentimentality.
Just curious if you guys came more for Clayton or for me.
No comment.
No
Okay.
comment.
Okay.
They're not going to answer that.
I don't know.
Well, originally I came for Clayton. I didn't even realize you're on the ticket. But now that I've seen both of you
Yeah,
in person, from now on, it's definitely you.
Thank you. That happens a lot.
I want to hear more about your niece.
Yeah. We'll get to that another day. We've got to get to poker here. I've been doing a lot of studying with GTO Wizard. We've got a brand new feature. This is so cool. Now on GTO Wizard, they just launched this thing called the Play feature, where you can actually compete against your friends to see who does better, almost like something that someone suggested not that long ago on Derek's stream. Derek Killingbird Tenbush has his own Twitch stream, and people were saying, why don't you do somebody said maybe like put a poll in the chat where people can guess which is the right answer or something like that. Well, now this new feature on the program, it's absolutely amazing. I don't know if you guys have played with it much, but I think GTO Wizard's phenomenal.
Yep, I tried, but I always came in last, so I stopped.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it really helps you realize what you don't know about poker, if anything.
I've uploaded hand histories from ACR to there and sort of have it go through and tell me where the mistakes are. And I've actually had Andrew and Carlos on their podcast weigh in on that feature.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, like I sent a question and I'm like, I'm not, the wizard doesn't like what I'm doing. And I find myself making plays just so the wizard will be happy. But they're bad plays because these people aren't balanced. Like, what do I do? And they have like a 16-minute episode of their daily strategy podcast that covers how to use the wizard more effectively.
That's
and
so cool.
It was a really good podcast.
Just in case anybody doesn't know, he's talking about the Thinking Poker Daily podcast, which is phenomenal. Andrew Brokus, Carlos Welch, those guys are the best. I really love their podcast, and I got to get Andrew back on. He hasn't been on for a while. I've had Carlos on more recently than Andrew, and they get jealous. I have to balance them. I have to be balanced. It's very important to have a balanced strategy.
They're both very GTO oriented, so you have to be balanced with them.
They are. Yeah, I mean, throw GTO out the window if your opponents are super exploitable, right? But, this program will help you for when your opponents are pretty good. It doesn't really help you beat bad players. It helps you beat good players, right? So you have a hand for us, right, Mark? What is it?
I've got one. There's a local guy who lives in Chapel Hill who runs the Triangle Poker Tour. It's actually grown from nothing, and he has these massive tournaments now, and it's really impressive. He runs a good show. So I go there when I can to play events, and this was a $400 event, $50K guarantee, and I've got a hand from that.
Okay, so it's a $400 buy-in, a $50K guarantee. Early stages, middle stages, where are we?
200, 400, 400.
Okay.
We've got a 35.5K effective, around 90 big blinds, give or take.
That sounds like it's pretty early then.
Early-ish, yeah. They start at 1-2. So
okay.
Yeah, we're still in like early level 3 or 4. And then the dude on my left had actually been up to 125 at one point. He was on a heater, playing a lot of hands, and he's down to 55K, and he's pissed about it.
Okay, so you're feeling that, like he's tilting a little bit. He's upset.
He's upset. He's up stuck, and he's trying to get his chips back.
Yeah.
He's been playing every hand, and so I had a feeling that this could be something I could use if the right spot would come up. So it is folded to me in the low jack, and I have king of clubs, 10 of diamonds.
Okay, so fold to us in the low jack with king 10 offsuit. We've got 90 big blinds and a tilty opponent on our left.
Yes.
I think we're obviously going to open. I don't see, it doesn't matter. 2.2, 2.3, whatever you want to do.
It's live, so I made it simple and threw out a 1K chip and said raise. So that's
2.5.
2.5.
Yeah. You approve of this one?
Yeah, especially when you're talking about these type of tournaments live. It's online. You can get tricky with the 2.2, but just due to chip denominations when you're playing live, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, for sure. No worries.
Yeah.
All right, so we're in there.
The gentleman on my left did call, which was not a surprise, and then it folded to the big blind, who flicked in 600 more.
What's the plan if this guy 3-bets you? I mean, because he's tilty, right? So are you thinking maybe we're going to 4-bet light with the king 10?
If he 3-bets to a reasonable size, I could probably flat and play out of position. I don't love doing that, but I know that he's so wide that king high is actually going to be good a decent amount. If he 3-bets massively, I actually might just consider jamming, honestly.
Wow.
I might, just because, he's really been playing every hand for like 2 orbits.
Yeah.
King 10 is a monster.
And he's got how many big blinds
He's
now?
got 55K. He's over 100. Like he's got us covered.
Okay. Wow. So we would actually jam king 10.
I would consider it. I don't know if it's correct, but with this guy, I think it actually might. I think a queen 10 could very well be in there.
All right, Marnie B would go on vibes, right?
That's what I was going to say.
knew
It
it.
feels like there was a vibe check that you did, and like that was driving your play.
Yes.
And I respect that
He's
and
playing
agree
a lot
with
of.
it.
He's playing a lot of
I think
hands.
that's wise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good for
but
you.
the thing is, pre-flop he's mostly been calling, so I wasn't stressed about the 3-bet too much. I didn't have that as a part of the plan. Now thinking about it, and now I'm just kind of maybe I'm making it up a bit, but like because he wasn't 3-betting a lot.
That is the fun of lower stakes live tournaments. You just don't get 3-bet as much live as you do online, right? Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually if they're 3-betting, they have a hand, but of course that goes into, Alexander Fitzgerald's theory of exploitative play, that when you are playing live, if no one else is 3-betting, they only 3-bet if they've got a massive hand. Then if you increase your 3-betting frequency, people are going to give you credit for the better hand. So that's a way to really increase your pot size and increase your win rate, is if you're the one 3-betting, even if you're opening your range a little bit more to do so.
Absolutely. Shout out to the Assassinato, Alex Fitzgerald, one of my favorites. I've got to get him back on the podcast, too. I've been doing so many solo episodes lately. I need to start getting more guests back in. It's been a while. We haven't talked to Alex. I'm going to be in Denver in January, and that's where he lives. I'm definitely going to have to catch up
See
with
if
him
you
out
can get
there.
him
Maybe
on.
get him on for a live
He's
one.
fantastic, yeah.
He's great.
So yeah, anyway, the big blind did flick in 600 more, so we're 3-handed to the flop. And the flop comes king of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 3 of hearts, and I do have the 10 of diamonds.
Okay, so we've got top pair and that backdoor 10 high flush draw. I mean, obviously it's a well above average flop for us, for our range, for our hand. The big blind checks.
The big blind checks. Now I have an issue. I have a pretty good hand. The best hand I can beat is king 9. Do I want to start piling money in the pot now? I don't. This feels like it might be a check. I'm not sure. Maybe a small bet. I can't see betting larger than 1/3 pot here.
Okay, I want to. I do want to bet. I want to bet small if I bet, right? I want to bet sometimes, check sometimes. I want to bet small when I do bet, because you're trying to get action from worse, and probably nobody has king 9. The
Probably
big
not.
blind could have like king deuce suited even,
Yeah.
right? But the caller ostensibly has
Right.
something else.
Right.
We want him to call with that something else, whether it's
Right.
pocket sixes, ace 5, right? We want him to have a little something to call us with. And if we bet like the pot or something, we make it too easy for him to play well and not make a mistake.
Right.
You want to try to put your opponent in a position to make a mistake.
Agreed.
And so let's go for a small sizing, maybe even less than 1/3. What do you think, Brent?
So we're saying pot size is what, 3,600. So you've got small blind plus antes, the 3 callers at 1,000, the 36 in the pot. I kind of like maybe even doing a slight down bet, going to something like 800. 25% of the pot, something along that line. That would be typical of continuation bet, whether you're going for value or a semi-bluff CB. So I kind of like a slight down bet to like 800, 1,000, something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me too. I think that with 2 opponents, I'm less likely to see bet unless I actually have something. I mean, my bluffing frequency goes way down, maybe too far down. Like I just don't. I'm not going to fire, even though it's a hard flop to hit king 5 tray, right? but it is a little bit connected and suited. So, I don't know. I think I like this down bet idea a lot. I would maybe put in like 800 and just see what happens.
I can certainly see that. In game, what I knew was the guy on my left was playing every hand. And if you think about it from a theory perspective, if you play every hand, you end up with too much garbage after the flop. And you have one of two choices to make. Either give up too frequently or bluff too frequently. He was in the bluffing too frequently mood. So I actually checked this because I thought he would go for it if both people checked to him.
Because you're thinking he's still thinking about the chips that he lost. He's up stuck, right? He's well up, but he remembers that he used to be way, way up.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you check, he'll try to force the issue and try to get that money back.
That was my thought process. So I actually checked it, and into 3,600, he bets 4,000.
Okay, so he's overbet the pot by a little bit. Let's go to Marnie. She likes to check vibes. What do you think when somebody overbets on you like that?
I think he's lying.
Do you really? Why do you say that?
Based on all of the vibes that I'm getting from the situation, and especially being in person, you really can pick up on those. I think that he's chasing his lost chippies.
Chasing his lost chippies. This is why Derek says Marnie B is a stone cold legend of the game. Of course, he says that about everybody else too, but that's not important right now. Let's leave that alone. Okay, so Brent, let's go to you. This guy's firing 4,000, overbetting the pot into two opponents. I don't know. That feels awfully strong to me. What do you think?
Well, so when you think about it, putting himself in his position, he's had two checkers to him. The same exact theory that we're using of you want to get callers by worse and you want to fold out better. So what is he actually trying to accomplish with this particular bet? Is he just trying to be a bully? He's not going to go for value on the flop with a strong hand overbetting the pot. The only reason he's doing that is if he has either middle pair that he's trying to protect. He does potentially has a draw and he's trying to buy it. It feels to me, I kind of agree with Marnie on this one. It feels a little fishy.
All right, so you're checking the vibes as well, which is a recurring theme for this episode, apparently. So, yeah, I mean, but the big blind folds, right? And so now we've got an issue. Like, we're probably not going to be check raising versus this sizing, are we? I mean, we don't want to do that, right?
I wouldn't think so. Not to mention, we checked. A big part of the reason we checked was to induce a bluff. Now raising and forcing him to fold his bluffs seems counter to what we were initially intending.
Yeah, what does raising accomplish? He just folds his bluffs and he's going to call when he's got us beat. So, yeah, I think that's we can rule out raising, but is it time to rule out folding as well? I mean,
think so.
Yeah, because we wanted this action.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable when it actually happens.
Yeah, but at the same time, like as many hands as he was playing, I knew that this hand was strong enough to go to the felt with. So the plan was just to call.
All right, and we have that 10 of diamonds too. That really helps, right?
Backup plans are important.
Yeah, I like having that 10 of diamonds. All right, so what's the turn?
The turn is a very beautiful deuce of spades. It probably didn't help him. They're obviously ace 4, maybe 4-6. But we're not really worried about the deuce of spades too much.
So king 5 tray, deuce on the turn. We still just have 2 diamonds out there. We have king 10 with the 10 of diamonds. And now we are heads up out of position against the guy who overbet on the flop. Any reason to lead this card?
At this point, I think you've given him the rope to hang himself. You let him hang himself. Still kind of thinking about ranges. The only thing you're really worried about is your king jack. Probably would have 3-bet that. King queen would have 3-bet that. Any of the other broadways on up, he would have 3-bet that. So I agree with you. I think you're probably in the lead. You've given him the rope. Let him continue to hang himself.
Do you agree this opponent in a live tournament would have 3-bet king jack or king queen?
I probably, as many hands as he's playing, I would assume those were premiums in his range. If you're playing 80% of the deck, king jack is the nuts.
Yeah, king jack looks really good when you're playing any 2 cards. Okay, so that makes sense. So we're going to check to him, and what happens?
Into 11.6K, he bets 20,000.
Oh my God.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm really, really exploitable, but I don't mind folding. I mean, I really don't, because, yeah, you can say, well, the vibes are telling me this, and the story that you told us about how he had so many chips and now he lost them and you feel like he's trying to get them all back. That's all good, but the most important information we have right now is that 2 extremely large bets have been made, okay? Also, P.S., the 6-4 got there, and if this guy's playing any 2 cards, he could have that. The ace 4 also got there. Not that we should worry about everything, But when you just combine how far from the nuts we actually are with the fact that this guy saw you call his flop over bet already, and now he's betting like crazy again, I don't know. I mean, exploit me to death. I'll get him sooner or later, but it's not going to be here. I'm folding. Brent?
Yeah, I mean, potentially on the turn, you could have thrown out a small blocker bet just to see how serious he was and see if he just flat called it. You know, checking there did give him the opportunity to overbet again. I didn't play with the guy. I wasn't there at the tournament. I don't know. So some people just tend to try to take on the table bully image. And so you've shown weakness by just flatting. Obviously, we would be concerned if we were in that position. If we were in position and we made that overbet and someone just called it.
Right.
But we don't know about the savviness of this particular player. So at this point, I mean, I think he's basically polarized himself pretty dramatically. And what you have to do is kind of go to the live reads and say, you know, he's either got it or he's full of it. And if he's full of it, then you're going to want to try to go ahead and win the hand right here and now, which is going to be the shove. The other option is you live to fight another day, but you're going to be continuing to deal with this throughout the tournament. It's kind of a coin flip for me here. I'm kind of 50-50 on the fold versus the jam, but I think I jam.
Wow. So why not just call? If you said before you wanted to give him rope to hang himself with, why are we jamming?
Well, if I remember the hand correctly, he was at 50-something. You're at 40-something, right? He's bet 11 and then followed it up by 20. So that's
basically all in.
So 33. Already, yeah. So you can't really just flat here because you're going to get all in on the river regardless. The only thing you can do is try to maintain what little bit of fold equity you have, call what could 50% of the time be a bluff here, shove it down his throat, and see if you can walk away with the chips.
No, I'm going to push back just slightly on that one because I think that calling, if he's bluffing, well, let's see. If we call here and then sometimes he might not bet the river when he does have us beat, right? We don't mind. We're calling, obviously, if he bluffs again on the river, we're going to call all his bluffs. But I feel like he might sometimes have King Jack and say, you know what? You called my huge bets 2 times. I'm not going to bet again. And then we end up saving 7,000 chips or whatever. What do you think about that, Mark?
I can see that certainly, and I can also see being a little concerned about something like Ace-4, 6-4, as you said. But at the end of the day, I did think he would 3-bet stronger kings, and I did think he would try to win. He's trying to win every pot he's in, it seems like, which is too many. Ultimately, I mean, you're not going to have enough good hands to do that, and if people are paying attention. And so, the problem is that if I call the 20, like he said, I mean, isn't it going to look a little fishy? What am I going to do then? Like, do I check with like about 1/6 of the pot behind on the river? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, you're checking, but you're never folding.
No, the plan isn't to fold. But again, like if let's say he has an Ace-7 offsuit, which I think is a totally reasonable holding right now. He just turned a wheel draw, and I've just check called. Like it looks like I have 2 9s here, and he might just get me to fold that, right? I mean, I think that's a reasonable attempt for him to do, and. If I rip it in with my King 10 here at this point, he's not folding his ace either because he's got equity and the pot's so big. So the way to get the rest of the value from those weaker holdings is to, I think, to move in and not to call.
We're value shoving like 90 big blinds at this point with 1 pair with a 10 kicker.
Bear in mind the SPR to start the turn was 1.5, so it's not the worst thing ever to go broke with top pair.
No, that's true. That's a good point.
And ultimately, when I flopped top pair against this guy, the plan was to not fold to this guy.
Right.
Like that was the plan going in, and I just decided I'm going to stick with the plan.
It's like Tom Dwan circa 2004. I mean, like I can't fold a pair to this guy.
Nope. I mean, given how active he's been, I decided that it wasn't. The only thing to do was to move in.
All right, so you ripped it in.
I did move in. He did have the thing I was thinking he might have, which was a diamond draw, which bricked on the river with the 9 of clubs. He had the 8-6 of diamonds.
This is fantastic. So he had more than just a diamond draw. He also had a straight.
He did
draw
have a gut. He turned a gut shot as well.
Yeah. So you dodged a lot of outs, but wow, what a huge pot! And then how did you end up doing overall in the tournament?
Ultimately, did not cash, unfortunately, because of a different gut shot got there. But you know what? That's how the game goes.
Yeah,
I was flying high for a little while.
That's good. All right, so you guys played it the same. You guys both check shove the turn.
I think so.
I actually would have live to fight another day, as
I
you
believe
said.
if you had played with this guy for an orbit, you wouldn't have folded.
Yeah, it is obviously different being there.
Yes, you have to. A lot of live poker is being at the table.
Yeah, and as Marnie B would say, you're feeling the vibes,
Yes,
right?
indeed.
Yeah. All right.
The vibe check paid off.
Yes.
So
100%.
That's
Yeah.
why it's literally the most important thing that you can't learn from your little friend GTO Wizard. Sorry, I know they're a sponsor.
Oh
Sorry.
my God. Okay.
Sorry.
Should I cut that out or keep it? No, let's keep it. We'll keep it in. All right, Brent, you got one too, right?
I do.
All right, cool. So yeah, that was a good hand.
Thank you.
Do they do that tournament frequently at that
Oh
place?
yeah, he runs every weekend.
Oh, okay.
If you ever want to play and you're in the area, it's a really good show. I'm actually playing one tomorrow night, a Halloween themed event.
Nice.
We're going to start with 500,000 chips. It's gonna be a
Oh,
blast.
that sounds great.
He actually got a poker chip set that looks just like the old Rio chips.
Oh,
And,
cool.
Like they're like duplicates.
Like the
And
colorful-
the
yeah,
exact
I
same ones.
remember
You remember the old Rio chips?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the yellow
Uh-huh.
thousands and all. Yeah. He has the same like set. And so he loves he's starting these tournaments with huge chips so he can use the 500K pancakes.
Oh,
He's got the oversized 500Ks, so he keeps upping the starting stack until the final table is full of pancakes.
Yeah.
That's the whole plan.
Amazing.
That's why we're starting with
I
$500,000
love it.
tomorrow.
I love pancakes. All right, so what do you got for us, Brent?
All right, so this is from most recently from the Brigada Poker Open. Kelly runs a great show up there. If you guys haven't been, they're going to be doing another when the Winter Open will be in January, so you guys should definitely check that out. But this particular hand was it was also a $400 buy-in, that mid-major stakes type tournament. We had just come back from dinner break, and I know you have a theory about dinner break. Once people are fat and happy, they want to get active, want to get after it.
People don't show up after dinner to start folding. They think about all the action they want after they eat. Yeah, I do think that.
At this particular state, I was actually fairly short stacked. It was 15,000, 3,000, 3,000. Sorry, 15, 30, 30.
Right.
And I was sitting at 637K, so right approximately 20 big blinds.
Okay.
So the button in the hand, so I'm actually sitting in the small blind. The button in the hand comes out and makes it 70, so basically 2.5-ish raise, and I'm in the small blind with ace, 3, spade.
Okay. So the question is, this is a pre-flop situation. Do we want to shove? So one thing I like to look at is the math. So he's put in 70 into a pot that already had 75 in it, right?
Put in pot that had 75 in it, correct.
Yeah, so at this point, there's, what is that, 145 in the middle?
145, and I'm sitting at 637.
Right. So does it make sense to shove like roughly 4 times the pot, almost 4 times the pot, increase your stack by 23-ish%, right? If you raise and take it, is that the best play with 20 big blinds? I don't know. What do you think, Mark?
I will say first and foremost that I am atrocious from the small blind, and I hate playing from there because it's very difficult. How active was this button, would you say?
Good question.
Okay, so this was a fairly active button. The being up north a little bit, this was your lots of jewelry, sunglasses, very talkative.
Jersey Shore. Was it the situation? Were you playing against the situation or not?
Gym, laundry, tan, yes. So yeah, it was that type player that was probably voluntary putting in pot, VPI, and probably 50-60% of the hands, probably more than he should have been.
Okay. So does that change your mind at all, Mark?
Yeah, because the thing is, at this stack depth, I can't see a 3-bet not all in making any sense whatsoever. So your options seem to be fold, flat, or jam. I don't actually hate jamming, given that he's playing too many hands, especially when he's coming back from dinner. A lot of times you find people want action back from dinner. I find that they're full and sluggish and actually tighten up some. That's what I've noticed.
Wow, isn't that interesting?
My sample size is smaller than yours,
Yeah.
to be fair, but I've found that people can sometimes need time to digest before they can get back into the action.
Yeah.
And they don't want to go broke, and I don't know.
Right.
That's I've found that they tend to be tighter after dinner.
All right, Bath Girl, what do you think when people eat? Do they want to play or they want to fold?
I can understand both sides here. Can understand being a little eager to get involved, but I can also understand chilling a little bit and sussing out what's current.
I think I should have a comedian on every podcast. It really changes the situation. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a totally fine shove, And, you can go with your live read, like if you feel like this guy's playing that many hands and this is just another standard blind steal. I mean, you're never doing that badly with ace tray suited, right? I mean, it's totally fine. It's a perfectly good hand to have when you get called, even if he's got like a pair of kings or something. I mean, you're not happy, but you're 30%. If he's got, some other hand, like with ace 3 suited, you're always at least 30-ish%, unless he's got pocket aces, which is pretty hard when you have one of the aces.
Now here comes the curveball.
Okay.
The big blind is a loose passive player that calls almost every hand and then will fold to almost any bet. That guy is sitting with only 337. So my thoughts are, if I go ahead and shove, I'm probably going to lose that player, versus if I keep the hand, I might bet I bring in additional funds. And I feel that where I currently am, my range, my ace 3 suited is probably above his range that he's going to flat.
Right, so he's going to call with much worse, but then in that scenario, you're going to see a flop from out of position. And yes, you have a suited wheel ace, but the SPR is not going to be favorable because we got so many chips in there already, and we only started this whole thing with only 20 big blinds. So where I kind of like where the logic is there, I'd rather think in those terms with a bigger stack. Kind of generally, the shorter your stack, the more decisively you need to play your hands, because folding a hand that you should still be in there with when you've already invested so much of your stack is more disastrous when it's a bigger percentage. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right. So I think shoving. I'm all in.
Yeah, you got me on board. I'm jamming.
All right. It sounds like you didn't though, Brent.
I did not. So I flatted the 70, and sure enough, the big blind came right along with it.
As expected. So now there's like 7.5 big blinds in there, and we just have about 18 big blinds left, right?
So there's yes, approximately, 7. So we're now at a stack to pot ratio of, call it close to 3, a little bit under 3.
Okay.
So the flop comes out 9 ace queen 2 spades. Oof. So we flop the ace. So we've got the pair of aces. We also have 4 to the nut flush.
Wow. So this is just a brilliant flop. Yeah, that's as good as it gets. I don't want to bet though. I'm trying to go for the check raise here, right?
I assume so. We can't expect the big blind to bet, but I would guess if the button is that active, he's probably going to see bet against the blinds, especially on an ace queen 9 board, which you would think would favor him, the razor.
Yeah, it's a good flop for his range. We just happen to have crushed this flop.
Do exactly what you said. I check. Both check behind.
Okay.
That's not the worst thing ever.
Well, it's not bad because there's like you say, our SPR is like right around 2.5, I guess. So it shouldn't be impossible for us to get action if we are, as long as somebody has something, right? If they have a queen, if they have something, obviously any other flush draw probably would have bet the flop. But yeah, I mean, if nobody has anything, then you're not getting action no matter what. But yeah, we should be able to bet the turn and start getting all in.
The good news is you can probably get action from a queen now because it checked around on the flop.
Yeah. That's probably our best value target at this point. So what happens on the turn?
I completely agree with you, except the turn is a queen.
All right, so now we could be anywhere from 9 outs to drawing dead, right? That's not a good card. So with that in mind, I don't want to bet this card. Originally, I wanted to bet the turn. That was kind of the general strategy before I heard what came off on 4th Street. That's an ugly card. I want to check it now.
So I did this exact same thing. So I checked the turn. Loose passive to my left also checks. The button then checks as well. So 2 check throughs.
Okay, so, you got to start to like your pair of aces now, your 2 pair aces and queens with a blank kicker. I guess the plan would be to try to make that flush. And short of that, I don't know. Like, can we get value? Nobody has a queen. Nobody has an ace. Like, what can we get value from? Anything?
The button could very well have something like kings or jacks. It's obviously not super likely, but if he has a hand like that, maybe a 9-10 suited, and he wants to see showdown, and you could very well bet a quarter pot on the river. That's an option. We could, assuming the river's a blank.
Yeah. Okay, so what is the river?
The river is 4x. So
a blank.
Completely blank card, no spades, no straights, nothing there. And I do exactly what you're saying. I go for what I believe to be thin value. I bet about a quarter of the pot.
Okay. What I would have done before we talk results here, I don't want to bet this card. I don't I don't believe I can get value. Well, I mean, the hands that Mark mentioned could possibly give us value, like especially pocket kings. We got all this far. He doesn't love the board, but he's going to call a small bet with kings or maybe jacks, right? But other than that, if he's got an ace, we're either chopping or beat, right? And if he's got a queen, I don't know why he never bet it yet, but it's very hard to get value. But when we check, this guy raised pre-flop. He's a loose aggressive type of player from New Jersey, right? And now we've gone check, 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 check. He's not going to check again. I don't care what he's got. He's betting that river every time, right? So that's why I prefer checking here. But if you are going to bet, I like the quarter pot or even smaller than that. What do you think?
I can certainly see what you're saying, that you think you're going to get more money letting him bluff. But generally, I feel like he would have bluffed the flop, just because if he has nothing, I think he stabs the flop and then just gives up if he gets called in one or two spots. But if he checks twice, it looks like he's trying to get to showdown. I kind of want to charge him to get there.
I hear you, because that is a good case for pocket kings. Like if he didn't have anything on the flop, why didn't he see bet then? Maybe because he had two opponents, maybe because he thought the board was too wet, or maybe he has showdown value. And then he's not going to bet hands with showdown value. He's only going to bet hands with no showdown value. And so we really can't get anything. So yeah.
And there are still hands that are within his range that can beat us, that we could get to fold. You got to think about almost all the aces, right? With that run out, ace, queen, queen, and then the two low cards, any ace larger than ours could potentially win at showdown. So letting him get to showdown, not only could we potentially charge him for the kings or the queens that you're talking about, where he just wants to get to showdown, but it is also possible that we could get him to fold a really, really weak ace that otherwise would beat us at showdown.
Wow, that is so interesting. I just don't know why he didn't bet the flop with two spades on the board if he had an ace. I just think most players, especially at Borgata, where I've spent a lot of hours, they're always worried about the flush. They're always worried about somebody hitting a flush on them. So I think that you're just not going to see, I mean, of course it will happen some percentage of the time. It's not a zero, but I think that he's not going to turn over a better ace very much. I guess if we bet, he might fold it, but I don't know.
Bear in mind, it has to be ace 10 or better to even win.
Right. Otherwise,
like ace 8 is a chop.
It's a chop.
So,
right.
I mean, and I don't think he would ever fold an ace at the river. But if he called on the river, like if I made my little quarter pot bet and he called and rolled over ace 6 offsuit, that wouldn't shock me.
No, and we're chopping anyway.
That wouldn't surprise me if he rolled over like an ace 6, like some dry ace.
Yeah, but he didn't bet the flop when it was a draw heavy board. That's just unusual for the way they play up there.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, let's hear the result, Brent.
So I bet the quarter pot, the big blind folded, and he jammed. Button jams.
So it's check, 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 jam. And the problem is you started with only 20 big blinds, and now you've put in how many? 5?
So we put in 5 big blinds. I've got 15 left, but I'm now inheriting the button, so I've got another cycle of hands coming out. And in the moment, either he was the pre-flop raiser, could be a strong ace, was trying to check. Potentially the queen came out. He was scared about the same thing. He read my river bet as a potential blocking bet, and now he's putting me to the test. Or it could be the kings that doesn't believe that I have the ace anymore, because I also checked twice out of position. It's a really, really gross spot.
It's a gross spot, but I'm not folding. I've got to call this. I don't know. Maybe he's got 4 queens. I don't know.
If you listen to Andrew and Carlos enough, one of the things you'll hear frequently is hashtag they always.
They always have it, yeah.
And I can't imagine he's turning kings into a bluff here. That's very, very strange. I mean, maybe that's pretty sick. I wouldn't do that personally. That doesn't mean he's not doing it.
Right, but whatever he's got, he's played it strange.
Yeah, he has played it. It's an unusual line.
Pocket 4s, maybe? Pocket 4,
that's an interesting. I hadn't thought of that. That actually makes a ton of sense.
It checks all the way and then gets a full house.
River's a full house.
Yeah.
Fours makes a ton of sense.
Pocket 4s make sense. 4 queens make sense.
4 queens maybe. I would personally have bet the flop with the queens because I'm targeting an ace. The ace is beautiful.
It's so good. Yeah. So why don't you bet?
I'm never ever checking a set of queans on that flop.
This is really hard.
I don't know.
The set of queens was on the turn.
No, I'm saying If he has pocket queens on the button,
Yeah, pocket queen.
and he flops a set of queens on an ace high board, I'm betting 2/3
Yeah.
because I want it because an ace is never folding.
Right.
So I can't imagine he has quads. Fours make sense.
But if an ace is never folding,
Yeah.
then we should be calling
If he's
because we
gonna-
have one.
If you were going to bluff, why is he waiting until now?
It feels very strange. It's whatever he's got. It's a strange way to play it. So, all right, what do you think?
So in the moment, I figured that I had the advantage over that position on the table. 15 big blinds is still plenty workable, not an ideal stack. I am inheriting the button. I'm going to be able to see several more hands. So I decided to actually play it safe, and I laid the hand down.
Okay, so we're not going to know what he had.
We do know what he had.
Oh.
Because he does flip over ace-10.
Wow.
Ace 10. What a strange way to play
That is
ace
so
10.
odd.
So we were outkicked.
We were outkicked the entire time. Ace-10.
That is wild. Why didn't he bet the flop? Why doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets it all if he bets the flop.
And why would he shove on the river when you could easily have a queen? I don't understand the way he played the hand at
very
all.
odd. It's not. It's mind-boggling. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, if you ever want to play mind-boggling poker, I recommend the Borgata.
And I did have the opportunity because he was obviously seatmate sitting next to me, and we chatted about it a little bit. And you know, I said, you know, did you not think I could have the queen there? Did you not think I could have a better ace there? And his statement was basically flatting on the flop that he wasn't giving me credit for any ace because he thought that I would 3-bet with any ace.
Well, then why does he shove the river? If you can't call if you don't have an ace. The logic is very flawed, right?
Totally flawed, but gross spot. You know, I was lost in the hand too. So
All right.
you know, thinking back through the hand in hindsight, you know, what could I have potentially done better? And I agreed with your play throughout the tournament, other than you said check the flop. But even if check the river. But even if I check the river and he jams, I'm still in the exact same position no matter what I do. So thinking back through the hand, I don't know how I could have played it differently.
Yeah, I mean, if we check the river and he jams, then you're getting slightly worse odds, but it's kind of negligible at that point. You know, to me, when I have 20 big blinds, your M is like 9. You know, I'm trying to play my hands in a very decisive way. I don't want to have to fold top pair when I've got such a short stack. You know, I'd rather get it in pre.
Yeah.
You know, and we would have been, as the cards happened to
we'd have been dead.
We would have been
Yeah.
dead. But yeah, I think overall, because it's a button open from a loose aggressive player, ace tray suited, and then, you know, you flop that beautiful flush draw anyway. Now you can hit a 3 and beat him. You can hit a spade and beat him. Whatever, you know, it doesn't happen.
I like this thought process on keeping the big blind in pre-flop. I just think it makes more sense when we're deeper to do that.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, this has been fun, guys. I wish you would come to all my comedy shows, and then we can.
Got to come to North Carolina.
Yeah, I know. I really do. I love it here, and I appreciate you guys doing this impromptu episode with me. Anything you want people to know, Mark? Where can we find you? You're going to be on the stream this weekend?
I will try to be there Sunday, but the weekends are family time, so I don't get to play a lot. I will say, though, that if you want a great comedy show, you got to come to Lonerider. Clayton will be here every Thursday.
Very, very false. But Marnie and the dogs will be here today.
Absolutely.
Right. Marnie B., thank you for making your podcast debut with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Didn't believe that at all. All right. And Brent, you want people to follow you on Twitter? What's going on?
Of course. Twitter's my preferred method. It's at NC Tar Wheel, like North Carolina Tar Wheel, WHEEL, a little spin on Tar Heel. So check me out there. I typically post anything I'm doing, any tournaments I'm playing in, any successes or struggles that I've had. So yeah, that's the best way to kind of track me down.
All right. Well, thanks for coming out to the comedy show. Thanks for recording with me. For everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, with special thanks, as always, to our very generous sponsor, ACR Poker. I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas Plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Lock in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart.